Hello everyone, welcome to this week's Gran Turismo 7 Daily Race C Race and Strategy Guide. We're off to Germany and we're off to the Nurburgring GP layout in particular for a race in the Group 4 machinery. We've got 9 laps to get round, tyre we're just at times 1, fuel is pretty high at times 7. We have both the racing medium and racing hard tyres available, but the kicker for this one is only the racing hards that are mandatory. BOP is on, I believe it's the mid-speed BOP, damage is light, it's not really that relevant these days with the sensitivity having been reduced after 1.25. It's a rolling start of course, but interesting to see how that rolling start looks after the improvements that have been made in the more recent update, and slipstream is real. And I would say, initially looking at this, it looked like a fairly interesting race. You know, you've got the harder compound is mandatory, it's going to be a fuel saver. Is there any kind of scope to use those medium tyres? But yeah, fuel is going to be the kicker in this one. I did test a few cars before I kind of went into the actual test runs. Jumped in the Jaguar here. I just wanted to get a bit of a feel for how the fuel was going to act, how much fuel you could get when you were driving the cars full throttle with no fuel saving. The current Group 4 meta at the moment, I believe, is the Subaru WRX. In terms of fuel, we're round about the same as the Jaguar. A few people did mention it, they thought the Renault Megane Trophy might be the car for this one. It's definitely better on fuel, but you have to kind of rev this car out really to get the pace out of it, and you do still have to do some fuel saving in this car. So I'm not sure it's going to be the fastest round the track in terms of lap times, but it should be able to do the no stopper with a little bit more ease. And finally, the Alfa Romeo 155 felt very much the same as the Jaguar and the WRX in terms of fuel. There is 34 cars, I believe, in Group 4 and Gran Turismo 7, so I couldn't test them all. I only tested a small selection, and I decided I would do the test runs in the current meta, which is the Subaru WRX. It felt very nice round this track. I don't know what's going on, but the grip it appears to have on the hard tyres was just exceptional. Going through these twisty sections, I had to actually do a double take a couple of times and thought, have I put this on mediums because I have so much grip through these corners? But I think that's probably the reason why this car is so strong in the category at the moment. Now, we're doing the first of 2 strategies here. The first one is the no-stop fuel saver. Obviously, you know that because it's at the top of the screen. It seems like the most relevant strategy given the settings. So the no-stopper on the hard tyres. Now, if you drive this car flat out, revving it out, or sort of certainly at least revving it, driving it to the end of the rev limiter, you'll get around about 7 laps out of the fuel tanks. There is some fairly significant fuel saving required to get those 2 additional laps. Now, I didn't feel any need to use the fuel mixture at all. I was just able to do the fuel saving via the short shifting. Now, there will be a lap at the end of the video which will demonstrate exactly my techniques on how I was short shifting, what gears I was using in various corners to get the car round, saving enough fuel to do 9 laps. So do stick around for that, it should help you out certainly in the early days of this combination. But yeah, this car very, very solid around this track, feels very, very grippy. Tyre wear is not an issue whatsoever, as you can imagine. Lap times there on the right hand side, sort of in the mid 205s for the majority of them. We did pick up a very silly 1 second penalty, not from this chicane that we're just going through, it is where you usually pick up a penalty, just from running wide a couple of times. It seemed a little bit harsh, it was 2.5 seconds, so do take that into account as we take a look at the finishing time in a wee second. We actually judged the fuel absolutely spot on, crossing the line with 1%, and yeah, not too shabby a run in the Subaru WRX on the no stop. 18 minutes 48.7. Remember, that does include a 1 second penalty that has been added on. So moving on to the other strategy that certainly looked like it might have some viability given the settings, and that is to do 8 laps on the medium tyres and then pitting to do a single lap on the racing hard tyres. Now, as I said earlier on in the video, if you drive this car flat out, you'll only get 7 laps. So in order to be able to do that additional lap on the medium tyres, I did do a little bit of fuel saving to get to the 8 laps. I thought there was more benefit from doing an additional lap on the medium tyres with a little bit of fuel saving rather than doing a lap on the hard tyres. So that's what we've managed to do now. We're coming here to the end of lap 8. Now you can see that we've been doing 203.4, sort of mid 203s compared to mid 205s on the no stopper on the hard tyres. So we're around about 2 seconds a lap faster on this strategy. So it's all going to depend on this pit loss whether this strategy actually has any viability whatsoever. So into the pits we come. We're going to take on a set of hard tyres for the last lap, and we're going to have to do a little bit of a splash and dash as well. Now the timer is ticking down here, and as we kind of got to this point I was starting to think, okay, this is starting to take quite a long time. This strategy is not looking that promising. So we're now approaching 25 seconds before we're even getting towards the box, but eventually we get there. So we've now got to change the tyres, take on that splash and dash, and then see how much time we have lost in this pit stop. Now I haven't measured the pit loss exactly here, but if we kind of take a look at our in lap, that's a 2 minutes 24.4 versus 2:05s on the no stop strategy. So that is 19 seconds lost there just on the in lap. And as we fast forward through the footage here, it's all going to depend how much time are we losing on this out lap compared to a normal lap. And sometimes it can be quicker than a normal lap, sometimes around about the same, and sometimes it's a little bit slower. In the case of the Nurburgring GP in Group 4, it's around about 8 to 9 seconds slower than a normal lap. So as we cross the line there for our out lap of a 2 minutes 13, all in all, we've lost the best part of I think about 27 seconds in the pit lane. And when it's all said and done, we finish with a 19:03.5, which is 15 seconds slower than the no stop strategy. So that's that one, pretty cut and dry to be honest with you folks. The strategy for this one is definitely the no stop on the hard tyres with some fuel saving. Now I don't know if the Subaru WRX will be the best car for it. It's not going to really matter. The car's not going to really matter. The strategy for this one is definitely going to be that no stop. A little bit of a shame. I did have some hopes when I seen the settings that the two strategies would be a little bit closer. I mean, if that kind of one stop was within about 5 seconds, it would maybe have given it some kind of relevance, because you could maybe just, you'd probably have to be starting at the front of the grid, but you could maybe have ran away, had some clear track, put in some good laps, hopefully the cars behind you start fighting, maybe losing a little bit more lap time per lap than they have to due to that fight, and you could maybe have sort of eked out a bit of a win on the alternative strategy. But a difference of 15 seconds, there's just no real way around of trying to make that up. So yeah, pretty much cut and dried. This one is a no stopper on the hard tyres, and yeah, a little bit of fuel saving to make sure you can get the 9 laps out of the car. I think if they maybe put the fuel up to 8, it would have made the no stopper still possible, but you'd have to do some fairly extreme fuel saving. It would certainly have brought it way towards that one stopper as well. So maybe just times 8 on the fuel, and this one could have been a very different story. Anyway, that is the strategy wrapped up. Let's move on to a lap guide. Now this lap is me driving in the no stop strategy, and you'll get an idea of how much fuel saving I was having to do. I'm not going to really talk you through brake markers. I'll just kind of, you know, really just watch where we're kind of shifting as we go down the straight. So we're normally shifting around about 50%. Now the reason I'm showing you this lap is because I actually had to do a little bit more fuel saving on this lap compared to some of the earlier laps, because we were a little bit short on the fuel as we kind of approached the last 3 laps. So we did have to up the fuel saving a little bit more. So generally I was kind of shifting around 40-50% on the rev, and maybe carrying a slightly higher gear through some of these corners than is ideal. For example, that corner we've just came through there in 3rd gear, you'd maybe be down in 2nd gear there. But with the 4-wheel drive of the Subaru WRX, that's one of the kind of attributes of the 4-wheel drive cars. You can use a slightly higher gear and then just use that 4-wheel drive to drive the car out the corner without too much time loss. Coming down towards, I believe this might be called the Dunlop hairpin in the Nurburgring. I could just be pulling that out the sky though, but for some reason that is what is in my mind. So coming into here in 3rd gear, getting on the power nice and early upshift into 4th just to save a little bit of fuel. Ideally you don't really want to be upshifting too early on an uphill section, because you will lose a lot of time that way, but it's better to get to the end on the fuel than to run out. Sacrifice a little bit of speed where you have to. Coming in towards the final sector now of the Nurburgring GP. So 4th gear for that corner there. I'd say normally that'd be a 3rd gear corner, but because we're trying to save a little bit of fuel, 4th gear through there. Coming down towards the chicane at the end, you can actually brake right on the 100 metre board, and even slightly after. As I said, the grip on these hard tyres in this car just felt something else, so it did. No wonder this car is so strong at the moment. So coming through the chicane, absolutely hammer those curves. We've actually going to cross the line here with the fuel almost spot on. We actually seen this little bit of footage, I believe, or just, this is where the footage actually just started when we kind of looked at the strategy run for the no stopper. But yeah, crossing the line there with 11%. Now, one thing I do want to point out is don't really trust the lap remainings as much as you trust the percent. You're looking to use around about 11% per lap, maybe 12% if you're pushing a little bit. But the laps remaining does kind of start to correct itself as the laps go down. It can look a little bit off early on, but yeah, you're looking to use 11% per lap. If you kind of use that as your reference more than the laps remaining, you should be in better shape. But all in all, I think there's some potential here for a half decent race. I know fuel saving is not everybody's cup of tea, but they do tend to be fairly close, fairly intense races. Now, I've just actually remembered in the back of my mind there that this track has rain, doesn't it? Now, I don't think they're going to have rain in this one. I don't think they would have a mandatory tyre choice if they had any intentions of bringing the rain in. Hopefully I'm wrong in that one though. This one could be a lot more interesting if there's maybe just a little bit of rain in play. Can't see it happening, but yeah, let's see come Monday. If you've enjoyed the video, please hit that like button, please hit that subscribe button. Do join me for some live streams of this one next week if you can as well. Hopefully we have a better time than we had at Laguna. But until then, thank you very much for watching, and I shall catch you on the next one. Goodbye now.